Hello, we are Chris and Whitney, and today we're going to talk about one of our favorite topics, Chicago.
So today we just wanted to have some fun and debate some kind of iconic Chicago things. So we're talking this or that, Chicago style. Let's get started. So the first one is summer or winter?
Summer, probably, just because Chicago summer is unmatched.
It is.
This
is still a typical one though, I think.
Yeah, there's so much to do here. There's just like, obviously, that's when I'm kayaking.
Yeah, there's pros and cons to me about both, because the summertime there's so much to do, but also we're just like nonstop go, so it kind of gets exhausting. In the wintertime it does slow down a lot, but then you also have like Christmas in Chicago, which is so magical. I enjoy the quiet of January. I mean, it gets old though, you kind of get tired of it.
I like the weather in the winter.
I know
that everyone is like,
I know
it's so bad, but it's like, it's nice. I love like just the briskness and stuff of it.
That's tough, but I agree with you though. I think I'm gonna go with summer because there really is just so much to do in the summer, and it is an unmatched experience. So summer it is. All right. So next up is Chicago dog or Polish sausage.
Chicago dog, hands down. I like all of the toppings, I guess you would call it, fixings on a Chicago dog. I know that you don't. So
I don't like tomatoes.
Why you like the Polish sausage?
The Polish is definitely the one I would go with. The onions, the mustard, peppers. Ugh, I love a Polish dog. Like, I would choose that anytime. It's so good. But technically, they're both difficult for me because I can't have gluten, and there's really nowhere that has gluten-free ones. So it's kind of a hard one. But I think a Polish, though, you too could do without a bun easier than a Chicago dog without a bun, I guess, is like a salad, basically.
Yeah. I love a Chicago dog. It's probably one of my top three favorite foods of all time. So
how many did you eat in a summer?
I might have one today. Probably 20 or so.
It may not be healthy.
No, probably not. Probably 20 in your lifetime is like the limit.
All right, so next up is deep dish. This is specifically Chicago style deep dish, or tavern style.
Tavern style. I think deep dish is a fun, once in a while type treat, but if you're going to eat pizza more than once a month, it's probably good tavern style.
Yeah, I do love deep dish, even though I don't love tomatoes.
It's square cut here in Chicago, so it's kind of weird just because I'm so used to triangle pizzas. But typically the dough is really good. Yeah,
because it's more like a kind of it's not thin crust, but it's like kind of a hand tossed, but like thinner.
They call
style.
it cracker crust. It has like the kind of, it's thin. It's a little thicker than thin crust, but it still has that kind of like crunchy, like it on the, especially on like the
around the edges.
Around the edges, like it's got that like dough. It's like really crunchy and crispy. It's really good.
Yeah, I think I would choose tavern style as well. But I do really like deep dish. I mean, I enjoy it, but it is one of those things that I think, especially if you live here, because I think it's kind of a novelty for people who are visiting and coming in, and they typically kind of are like, oh, we want deep dish. But I think when you live here, you kind of are like, once a year or so, maybe twice is good. I think I tend to want it more in the wintertime because it is so heavy too. And like the thing is, you get one and it's like you can only eat really like one piece, two absolute max if you're a big eater, and then you've got it left over for like a week. So that lasts a really long time.
The last few times that we've gotten deep dish, it's like,
well, we did get the littler ones recently at Luminati's.
Oh, the time
because they have the gluten-free ones.
So it's like three meals. Four meals. So.
It is. Yeah. All right. So next up, kayaking on the river or kayaking on the lake. You can do both.
Definitely kayaking on the river.
I
love just being in the building, like, what do they call it? Like the downtown canyon. Just like the buildings surrounding you, like looking up and seeing these massive buildings on either side of the river. Plus I love like I don't know, just like exploring and going further north and like south, and so like it's really beautiful there too.
That's what I was gonna say. I think I would choose the river as well. I like kayaking on the lake. Kayaking on the lake is really nice. You do get the beautiful like skyline view, and it's more of a sprawling kind of skyline view. Kayaking on the lake is definitely a lot calmer. There's not as much traffic. I mean, there's as many boats. There's just a lot bigger lake for them to spread out, and you do have so much traffic on the river. Especially like in the main branch section. But what I like about the river is yeah, you get that really cool kind of experience of going through the main branch with all the buildings around you. But then when you go up north or down south, it is more natural, and you kind of get to those spaces that don't feel quite as in the middle. So you kind of get both. You sort of get the best of both worlds. So I think that's the benefit of the river over the lake. Yeah. So from a kayaking perspective,
I think we need to definitely go kayaking on the lake again soon, but
yeah, I'd like to really soon.
I feel like, in my opinion, like it's got a beautiful view of the city, but it never changes.
That's true.
You're just one view, and you just see slightly different angles. With like the river, you're just like constantly getting
it's always
new
a new
buildings.
View. That's a really good point. Yeah, love that. Okay, so next up is kind of along the similar lines: River Walk or Navy Pier.
I would choose a river walk.
Yeah.
I think that they're just like, we like to eat and drink. There's tons of restaurants. My job is on the river walk.
You like live on the river walk.
I kind of feel like my career is on the river. I mean, my life is like on the river, but
yeah. I agree. Here's what I'll say: Navy Pier is larger. Literally, like the expansion, like the expanse of it is much larger. So there's a lot more room. There's a lot more activities. The flyover, which we love, is at Navy Pier. Absolutely love that, and wholly and wholeheartedly recommend doing it. It's so incredible. They have the Ferris wheel. There's the like children's museum that's at Navy Pier. There's a lot more. There's shopping at Navy Pier. There's a lot of activities to do at Navy Pier. But I agree. I think for us and like kind of what we like, we'd rather just kind of go and have a nice meal and sit and enjoy the view of the river. So the river walk is what I would choose too. But I do think Navy Pier has so much to offer.
Yeah.
And the Riverwalk can get very crowded.
Yeah, I will say that.
It can be.
I will say that sometimes the Riverwalk
packed.
doesn't have enough to do. I feel like people like really are looking for some kind of experience or something else, activity.
Yeah, and all of the activities really are on the river. It's like doing an architecture cruise, going out on a boat. There's not a ton of activities just on the Riverwalk itself, outside of eating and drinking. There is the Bridge House Museum. So one thing, and Art on the Mart.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so there's that too. But yeah, I would still choose the Riverwalk. I absolutely love being on the river. It's wonderful.
I'll be there today.
All right, next up is Buckingham Fountain or the Bean.
Oh, the Buckingham Fountain.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
The Bean is cool, but I feel like we went to go see it the first time that I came to Chicago. I don't think I've been back.
I do think it's worth going to see the Bean. It is, obviously it's cool looking, and it's neat to see it from different angles and all that kind of stuff. So the Bean is really neat. But yeah, I agree. I mean, Buckingham Fountain it's magnificent. Like I think is the word is it's huge. It's just you don't really realize the magnitude of it until you're kind of right up on it. It's just enormous, and it's so cool. And it's really neat when I think it's every hour, it like shoots up really, really tall for about 15 minutes, and that is a really cool thing to see. Yeah.
Do you know how high it shoots up?
I don't.
I was trying to tell some customers that the other day, and I was like,
I have no idea. It's really high.
It's high. And they were like, really? And I was like,
because it goes from being like, just like a little kind of fountain thing to just this like massive kind of spout.
Maybe we'll add like the height right here in post. This is the height.
All right. So next up is the Art Institute or the Field Museum. This one's a hard one. I think this one's
okay.
Really tough.
So I am an artist. I feel like I should say the Art Institute, but honestly, the Field Museum, in my opinion, is cooler. Like it has like Sue, and it has like all of the like rotating exhibits. I feel like there's more to see there.
Yeah, I think there's a little more variety probably in what you're seeing. I enjoy both. I think I love the Art Institute. I love the Field Museum. They're both a wonderful thing to do. And it is tough because I do I mean, I could spend all day in the Art Institute. There's so much to see.
I'm not saying that it's not bad,
but I agree.
It's not great. It is amazing, and I love all of the art in there, and I love seeing the same, like the really famous pieces.
And
of
they
art.
do the rotational exhibits and like those kinds of things.
We went for
as
the
well.
woodcut thing, the Japanese art. Like that was really. We got to see like one of the wave, the Great Wave prints, and like awesome. But like, the Field Museum has like so much more. I feel like.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like. We haven't even, we probably even haven't seen all of the Art Institute either, but we've been to the Art Institute more. But the Film Museum, like, I feel like there's still so much more to explore that we haven't, because I mean, we could spend hours and hours in just like one little section. We did that one time because we went there and spent so long in that taxidermy animal area. It was like 4 hours. And then it was like, we were kind of rushed to get through the rest of it. So yeah, I mean, there's so much at the Film Museum. I think I would definitely choose that. All right, next up is O'Hare or Midway. So 2 airports here.
So I've never been to O'Hare.
You haven't?
No.
Oh.
So obviously, if you've seen Home Alone, they go to O'Hare.
They do.
That's my only experience of O'Hare, other than people complaining about it because it's on the Blue Line and it's forever away.
Yeah. I definitely like Midway.
I like Midway, obviously, because it's the airport that we use. The convenience of it is it's like a 20-something minute train ride.
It's a much shorter train ride.
Walk right into the airport, off of the train.
Yeah.
And you're there. And like you don't have to worry about.
Yeah, Midway doesn't have the same air traffic that O'Hare has. O'Hare is just such a major airport, has such major air traffic that you pretty much can guarantee you're going to have delays. You're going to like circle forever before you can land. Like to me, that's frustrating. I don't like that. We also do tend to fly Southwest, and Southwest is much more prevalent at Midway than it is at O'Hare. There's like a small kind of selection of Southwest flights at O'Hare. There's a lot more at Midway. So yeah, I definitely prefer Midway. It's just it's a smoother process, faster process generally. It's a little less crowded, as a general rule than O'Hare, and then half the time on the train getting to and from for downtown. So definitely prefer Midway.
So I will say that Carol Ross-Varney, she's the architect that designed the Riverwalk, and she's the one that designed the eyelashes thing, the pedestrian covers on each bridge. She is currently in the process of redesigning O'Hare, so.
Well, that's
cool. It would be
cool.
Interesting to see it once she's finished, because it's supposed to be like a huge update, and it'll look a lot prettier. Yeah,
there are some places that you can't get to really or harder to get to from O'Hare. So there are certain like areas or places we might go to where we would need to fly in and out of O'Hare. But if I have the option, I'll choose Midway.
Certain places that we can't get to from Midway.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like when we go on an Alaskan cruise one day, bucket list item. For instance, be easier to fly out of O'Hare. All right, so next up is Lincoln Park or Grant Park.
So I'm going to say Lincoln Park, even though we should say Grant Park because it's just right there.
Grant Park is closer. This is a very hard one.
But the Grant Park doesn't have really anything there.
It does. It has a lot.
I mean, compared to Lincoln Park, though.
I don't know, because Grant Park has tennis courts and pickleball courts. It has Buckingham Fountain. It has baseball courts.
None of that I do.
Baseball fields.
Yeah. None of that I do.
Well, that's true.
And like
Grant Park houses all of these events, like Lollapalooza and Gold Coast Art Festival.
But then Lincoln Park has the zoo, has North Pond. It has also all of those ball fields, sports fields that you said. It also is massive.
Lincoln Park is a lot bigger, really.
In my opinion, Lincoln Park feels more like a forest.
Yeah.
When Grant Park feels more like a yard.
Okay, I mean, I can see where you're going with that. I love both of them, and I probably agree with you honestly that Lincoln Park is a little bit better as a park goes. It also has such close proximity to like North Beach. Which is nice. So yeah, and I love the Lincoln Park Zoo. Obviously, the zoo is fantastic. It's a really beautiful place to go and just walk around. It's free, so it's a cool thing to do if you're here and you want one thing that you don't have to spend money on, which is nice. So, and I think that like Lincoln Park reminds me, and this is probably kind of where you're going with the forest thing. It reminds me a little bit more of like Central Park in New York, and you do feel like you sort of get lost in it and don't even think about the fact that you're in a city. And that is not true in Grant Park. I think the whole time you're in Grant Park, you still feel like you're in the city. I mean, it's got some really nice tucked away places. You can find some nice shady tree areas, and we take picnics out there all the time. It's got some of that, but you are always conscious of the city around you. Whereas in Lincoln Park, you can sort of forget that you're in the city, and then suddenly you look above the trees and you're like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm in the city. I forgot, which is kind of cool. That makes Lincoln Park really special. Yeah. Okay, so this is about events that happen around us: Lollapalooza or NASCAR. Two major events that happen in the summertime happen in Grant Park, right in front of us, and are a little chaotic.
Yeah, I will say that it was like, I don't know, 6 years in a row. We always happened to come to Chicago during the summer.
Before we moved here, it was like we always happened to come during
Lollapalooza weekend. So I don't know if it's like the perfect time to just visit here. I've never been to either. But I will say, if you watched our NASCAR video, I think that the NASCAR event is more enjoyable because you can see the cars literally driving by instead of Lollapalooza. You just sort of hear. You can kind of hear it, and then if you have binoculars, you can see the little bitty people playing on the stage, which is like.
Well, Lollapalooza has like, there's usually how many stages? 4 or 5 stages. So you're not really. It's not like you're hearing a band. You're kind of hearing lots of just noise because you really can't pinpoint necessarily one. I think a couple years ago when Metallica played, we could kind of hear them because they were like a headliner, so I think they may have been the only ones playing at that time. But I agree with you. I think NASCAR, at least we get to kind of enjoy it. So it's a little bit more inhibiting as far as like the setup and tear down than Lollapalooza is, but it does, like, we at least get some entertainment out of it because we get to enjoy it and watch the race.
I feel like in years past, like we've kind of noticed like the Lollapalooza crowd like outside of the event, like maybe if they're like just like going to Starbucks or going to the restaurant or like getting food or something, so it kind of creates more chaos like on the streets. I feel like NASCAR I didn't really notice.
No, I agree with you completely because I think Lollapalooza brings in like 5 times the amount of people. It's like 400,000 people.
Times.
It's insane. So that is. You feel the like congestion of just the people because it's like you're walking through just seas of people. It's like trying to go, salmon going upstream. Like it's just like wild. So that's true, and it really isn't that way at NASCAR because with NASCAR, you just don't feel the crowds as much, which is really nice. So yeah, I agree with that.
It does seem like too like. Some people come to Lollapalooza and they may only want to see a few bands, so they go there for that time, and then they're kind of in the city for the rest of the time.
Yeah,
and
shopping.
It did seem like the NASCAR fans were like they went to the event and they were kind of there the whole day.
Yeah, that's true. Then maybe that's the difference, because they're kind of hanging out inside, like because there's a lot of activities going on. So they had like tents with different things that they could do, and there was like I don't know places they could eat.
There was also like. Musicians and stuff playing.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, there's concerts and stuff going on. So yeah. Okay, so NASCAR. All right, so the next one is Cubs or White Sox.
So apparently this is like a huge
big deal.
Big deal. Like people that are Cubs fans are anti-White Sox, and people that are White Sox fans are anti-Cubs.
Yeah, there's apparently a rivalry. You have to pick, I guess.
Yeah, it's like a huge rivalry. You have to pick, and if you pick the wrong side, you're in trouble. I think we've talked about this before, but you're a Cubs fan, right?
Well, we're not big sports fans.
I know we don't.
General,
neither of us will watch the games at all. But it's like if we had to choose.
Yeah, but if I think I would choose the Cubs. I don't really have a lot of justification for it outside of the fact that I just know them more. Like I've heard of them longer. So I think that's why my family tends to choose the Cubs, but no one in my family is really a massive sports fan. So that's who I would choose. I would choose the Cubs, but I have no justification for that. And I'm not, unfortunately, staunchly in my opinion, so I could be swayed. So
yeah. Honestly, the only thing that I know the only thing that is swaying my opinion is that I heard the beer and the food is cheaper at the White Sox, so I'm going to choose the White Sox.
Yeah, and I think they have a newer stadium.
Plus, that way, like I'm White Sox, you're Cubs, and
it'll be a house divided.
Yeah, house rivalry. We can have someone to root for no matter who wins. But yeah, people at work all the time. Like I saw one of the tour guides yesterday was giving people in his tour a hard time because they were Cubs fans, and he's from the South Side. So
people get very serious about it.
I'm like,
yeah.
Can we like? Is there a minor league baseball team that we can root for, so we can just throw everything in the
That's funny. Okay, so next up is Mag Mile shopping or the neighborhood kind of more boutique shopping.
Boutique shopping, like Armitage Street,
I agree wholeheartedly.
Like all of that, like even like Lincoln Square, like that kind of like off the beaten path is always going to be better for me. I think that like I like the products that are typically sold and those type things, like Transit Tees up there, like Bucktown, and like there's a few other of those kind of type shops that's definitely way more appealing to me than just like designer.
Yeah, well, yeah, because I think with Mag Mile shopping, you get kind of just your typical kind of stores that you would see, you know, anywhere, and then also like designer stores. Also, it's very congested because that's a lot of like people come to do that, right? To go up and down Mag Mile and do shopping on Mag Mile. So it's always very full of people. You know, there's only one thing that we go up there for.
It's the Lego
There's one
store.
Particular store, the Lego store
is at the almost the very end of it, so we have to kind of walk through the whole thing to get there. So.
Yeah, so it's kind of an experience every time you have to go because it's, you know, it's very congested going up and down Michigan. And when you go out to kind of the neighborhoods and go to more of the boutique kind of shops, you can get some really cool things. I bought a beautiful dress at that shop in Armitage that I just love. It's like one of my favorite things. And they also have just these cute little kind of, there's like that little bar shop also at Armitage.
Yeah.
So there's just cute shops that have all these kind of fun little things that I think are more unique and more exciting than what you might find just kind of at a typical kind of every place has that kind of store, you know? So yeah, I definitely would choose, you know, the Armitage shopping the boutique like neighborhood shopping because you don't have the crowds and it's just better stuff.
Yeah, and I feel like the likelihood of you like just finding something that you think is great and you just decide to buy is higher than if you were like walking down Mag Mile. Like,
that's true. Actually, for me, like Mag Mile shopping is like I'm on a mission. Yeah. Like I need new jeans, or like there's like a particular thing I need to buy new shoes. Like there's something specific that I'm looking for.
I need to buy Legos.
Yes, that is also a need sometimes, not a want. A need. But yeah, I think that is definitely. Whereas like just kind of casual shopping out at the boutiques where it's like I'm not really looking for anything special, just kind of killing some time. I just want to see if there's anything that calls my name. It is a different kind of experience.
Yeah,
that's
especially for our personalities too.
Yep.
Like, I'm sure there's people that probably do Mag Mile that's similar, but
that may be. Yeah, that's true.
Because not everything on Mag Mile appeals to our aesthetic. So
sure. All right. So next one up is about transportation: trains or bus.
I'd say train. I think that the ease of the stops are a little more intuitive. That's exactly what I was thinking.
I don't disagree.
You can just go down and then the next train comes. Like you know where it's going.
The trains are consistent. Yeah. Because you're not dealing with traffic. So unless there's some kind of like construction happening or Cubs game. That is true, actually. That's why you're choosing the White Sox. You're like,
well, when I worked up north, I definitely like had to deal with the Cubs games, and so
because it can get very crowded on the train when there's games.
We've been using the bus a lot more recently. The buses are great, but my biggest gripe about the bus is that there's just so many of them, and they have so many different routes that unless you are like, you know, knowledgeable of the routes or in my opinion, it feels like extensive research to find out which bus that you need to take. It's a little more complicated. I wouldn't say that it
more
is
confusing. I don't disagree.
Yeah, I guess, it's definitely like, you know, because this bus may turn right here and go on that route, and you're like, make sure that you're on the right bus versus like, you know where the red line's going. Yeah. There's only like 9 lines, so.
Yeah, I think the value though of the bus is that it goes places the trains don't go. So if you're ever in a situation where you're trying to get somewhere and there isn't a train that will get you there, there's almost always a bus that will, or like a train and a bus, you know, kind of do. Yeah. So it does have a little bit more versatility, but with a bus, you could get stuck in rush hour traffic, and it could take you massively longer to take a bus than it would if you walked.
Or sometimes the schedule is like hour between.
Yeah, there can be a lot of space between them, so it's just less consistent.
I will say too, another thing you said about the bus going, but like the bus will usually take you as close as you can get versus a train. You know, obviously if you're like I had, you know,
you had to walk from the stop.
I had a kind of an injury, and I had to like use the bus to get closer to work, and obviously if I took the train, it would have been just as long as just a walk from here. So
that's true. Yeah. So it kind of depends on your situation. I mean, they're obviously both great, but I agree with you. I would choose the train if it's train or a bus situation. I would choose the train because it's just easier, more consistent.
Or we could choose the metro because we did that recently too.
We did. We loved the metro. That was so much fun. Yeah. And we'll be doing more of that because that was a really great way to kind of get out and about.
We went out to Skokie
to go to the
Westfield Mall
exhibit.
and so we had to take the metro and then a bus. So that was an adventure.
Yeah, that was awesome. I loved that. All right, so Mies van der Rohe or Frank Lloyd Wright?
I'm gonna say
two very prominent architects here in Chicago.
We're talking about Chicago Mies van der Rohe or Chicago Frank Lloyd Wright or just any Frank Lloyd Wright?
Well, I think this is Chicago because it's Chicago this year.
Okay, so then if it's just Chicago, I would say Mies van der Rohe.
Yeah, I think I would too. So Frank Lloyd Wright did his apprenticeship here in Chicago, and then obviously has some buildings here. But a lot of Frank Lloyd Wright stuff is more on the outskirts. It's not really downtown. The Rookery building, the lobby of the Rookery, was redesigned by Frank Lloyd Wright in 1905. So there is some influence here downtown, and a lot of what he did as an apprentice is represented downtown. But that's not solely him. That was him, under other architects. But the Roby House, but you have to go out a little ways. It's on the University of Chicago campus. The Roby House is really beautiful, and I do love Frank Lloyd Wright's style. I love the intricacies of his design. It's really beautiful. I think his work's incredible. But I agree with you for just a standpoint of Chicago. Mies van der Rohe is so downtown Chicago, and you can see the influence of Mies van der Rohe even in other architecture.
Yeah, I mean,
around the city.
One of his most famous buildings is the AMA Plaza, and it's it's just a black rectangle. Mm-hmm. But if you were to look at that and his other buildings, there's so many other buildings that are downtown that you can tell are influenced by that.
Yeah. If not his, they're influenced.
Yeah, think of just a black rectangle or black steel looking.
Well, even
building.
The Sears Tower,
right?
Very
Sears
clearly,
Tower,
to me, seems to be influenced.
Even the
by,
Hancock, the
definitely
Illinois Center is his. Yeah, it's definitely iconic in my opinion of Chicago.
Yeah, I think when I think of Chicago and I think of downtown Chicago specifically, Mies van der Rohe, the influence there seems a little stronger. But I do love Frank Lloyd Wright's style. I mean, I think his architecture is beautiful. And there is obviously influence of that downtown. There are representations of that. Along the lines of architecture, the Wrigley Building or the Tribune Tower. Two gorgeous buildings.
The Tribune Tower is my favorite building in the entirety of Chicago, so I'm always hands down going to say that. I don't think that there is a building that looks more beautiful. It kind of makes sense because it was designed to be that way. Yeah. But I think that
it was a contest, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
They held a contest to see who could design the world's most beautiful office building, and the winners achieved that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think the Tribune Tower is so beautiful. It's really Gothic kind of architecture style. It's now a condo, so it's no longer an office building. It was very recently converted into condominiums. One of my favorite things about the Tribune, though, is the inset stones.
Oh, I was going to say
around the building from other iconic, landmarks and places around the world.
Yeah, over 150 of them. So it's obviously you can just walk around on the outside. They have piece from the Kentucky Mammoth Cave, the Great Pyramids of Giza, the Great Wall of China, the Stonehenge, Eiffel Tower, Arc de Triomphe, World Trade Center, everything. It's it's awesome.
It is really cool, and that's a cool thing. If you're just out, another free thing to do. If you're just out on Michigan Avenue, kind of walk around the Tribune and
they're only
take a look at them.
Little stones sticking out, but it's still cool because it's.
But they're all engraved and noted, and you can just walk around the building and take a look at all the different ones. It's really cool.
Especially really cool if you're visiting Chicago from another country or somewhere else in the world.
Yeah.
You can see. Oh, it's my hometown.
Yeah.
There.
That's what's cool about having the one from Kentucky. And Wrigley, of course, is a beautiful building. Yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous. You said I think it's the first building to have air conditioning.
Yes.
Correct, which is very important. It is a beautiful building.
Yeah.
And the clock tower,
it definitely stands in the top, especially top 5 best buildings in Chicago.
Yeah. And they are both right next to each other.
Yeah, it's great that they're right across from literally the AMA Plaza, the Marina City, Wrigley, and the Tribune, all like some of the best architecture in Chicago is just within 2 blocks, 3 blocks.
And one of the cool things I think is they're all so different, really. Like, you know, it's a lot of different representations of the kind of architecture in the city, which is really cool. Love that. All right, I think actually that was our last question. I just realized. So that was our this or that Chicago style. We'd love to know what you think in the comments. Do you agree with us? Are you on the Cubs versus White Sox thing? Do you have one that you just stand by? We'd love to know what your thoughts are and which one is the better team, because we don't really know. We just pick, you know, based on a hunch. So anyway, we'd love to hear from you in the comments. Please let us know. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up.
And if you want to see more of our content and more of our little days in the life of Chicago, or, you know, our fun little games that we play like this, make sure you subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next time.